That percent, how to figure out that percent, I'm going to show you how to do that tomorrow. Okay, and that's going to be with our lab, with our percent composition lab. Okay, but this is how a company can copy, like Pepsi copies from Coca-Cola, or CoverGirl copies from Chanel. Okay, so you can have very many different combinations of copper and oxygen. So what you want to know is what is this particular formula. So the empirical formula is not really a formula, it's a process. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to divide by the actual molar mass, is what we did yesterday. So what's my molar mass of copper? Look at your periodic table. What's your weight? You won't survive this class without the periodic table. 64, very good. Oxygen, what's your molar mass for that? 16, very good. So the molar mass you can round off, it's no big deal, okay? But the second part, right here, what you're going to do, 88.8 divided by 64, you must give me 3 significant figures. So divide that, and you have more than 3 significant figures. You're going to round it off to only 3. So what are going to be your 3 numbers? 1.38 are your 3 significant figures. That 8 is going to be rounded off, right, because of the 7 after it. So it can be 1.39, right? So you're going to have 1.39. It's very important that in this area you have at least 3 sig figs. Okay, because that's going to, it can change your chemical formula outcome. All right? Okay, so now do oxygen. 11.2 divided by 16 equals, what are your 3 numbers? I would use your calculator. Okay, yes, and so 0.7, and I would have 0, 0, because you have to have 3 sig figs, right? Okay, so now you're going to look at those numbers and look at both of them. Here you can have 2 numbers, 3 numbers, it doesn't really matter. But look at all of them. Which is your smallest number? The 0.7, right? Okay, so you're going to divide all of them by 0.7. So right away for the oxygen, we know that 0.7 divided by 0.7 is going to give you how much? It's going to give you 1. Very good. These numbers are the important part. On this last part, you can round off. If you have 1.1 to 1.4, you can round off to 1. If you have 1.6 to 1.9, you can round off to 2. However, if you land at 1.5, you can't round off at all. Okay, let me say that one more time. If you stop at right 1.5, you can't round off. Okay, the reason for that is because what you're doing is you're getting, this number actually means how many of the oxygen atom you have. You can have 2 oxygen, you can have 3 oxygen, but you can't have 1.5 oxygen. You can't split your atom, okay? So if you land at a 0.5, a 2.5, 3.5, you always times 2 to get a whole number. But what you do to one side, you have to do to whatever other number is here, okay? But we don't have one yet, right? This just rounded off to plain 1. Okay, that's just in case you get that. Okay, any music needs to be turned off. All right, 1.39 divided by 0.7 is how much? 1.39 divided by 0.7 is 199? Okay, so that can round off to 2, correct? So 1.9 rounds off to 2. Yes? Yes? Okay. So now what these mean, it means I have 2 coppers and I have 1 oxygen. Cu2O is your actual empirical formula. Your empirical formula is the actual chemical compound. Okay? So if I'm working for a plastics company and I'm trying to figure out how much of a particular formula there is in that. And we're going to actually do that tomorrow. We're going to figure out how much sugar is in the actual gum piece, okay? And you're going to know how many grams of each particular element or compound is in that ingredient, is in that product, okay? All right, let's do the other one, and you're going to tell me how to do it. Okay, so let's look at number 2. What's my first step?
Trying to find
The weight, right? You have to get the molar mass first, what we did yesterday. So carbon weighs how much? You're going to look at your periodic table. Very good. Carbon is 12. Okay. Hydrogen weighs how much? Yep, very good. And oxygen weighs how much? You can round that one off too. How much? 16, very good. Okay, that's your first step, always. So your second step is you're going to divide, and you're going to give me how many significant figures? 3, very good. So 40 divided by 12 is how much? How much did you get? Remember, you need to give me 3 numbers. Yep, 3.33. Was that light for you guys also? 3.33. Okay, now for hydrogen, 6.7 divided by 1. Yep, very good. So that's 6.7. I always put a 0 because I always have 3 numbers. All right, 53.3 divided by 16. What are your 3 sig figs? Yep, it's 3.33. Very good. What's your next step? Yep, you're going to divide by the smallest number, which is the 3.33. Very good. Okay. All right, so what's my last part? How many carbon do I have?
What's that last number?
3.33.
You have 1.
This is 1. Very good.
Next one's
2.0?
0.
Okay, so then it rounds off to 2, right? Okay, and then oxygen is going to be 1. So what is my actual chemical formula for that problem? CH2, you're right. I didn't hear the rest. Oh, very good. That's it. That's your chemical formula. That's it. All right? It is easy. Where do we have questions? It's on your worksheet. Oh, I forgot to put that on there. Okay, hold on. It's the smallest ratio of something you have. So let's take something like carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and you can have many different combinations. So, Miha, you need to unplug, and you should be at your desk. You're going to be back up here. Okay? Page 32 on your I&B notebook. And remember, your I&B notebook is due next week. Okay? So let's say we have C4, H12, O6, where we're just making something up. Okay? All right, so now you have to look at all of the numbers. What number can you divide all of them by? You're welcome, girls. You can divide everything by 2. Very good. And so your empirical formula is the smallest ratio you can have. So 4 divided by 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Very good. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So can this be divided further? No, you can't because of the 3. Very good. Okay. So this is your empirical formula. So on the benchmark or on the test or on the midterm, if they give you a molecular formula like this and you can reduce it, when they ask for the empirical formula, you can just simply reduce it. That's it. You don't have to worry about it. Okay. Do we have questions on that so far? No? Okay. Now the rest of them are going to be... Okay, so let's do number 6. What's my first thing? What do I do? Yep, so what's my mass for copper? Get off the phones, guys. Alejandra, put that away. Guys, what is the weight for copper? 64. Okay. Sulfur weighs how much? Ladies, we need to pay attention. 32. Oxygen weighs 16. Now, here you have a compound instead of an element. So you're going to do that just like yesterday. You're going to get the molar mass. Water's H2O, correct? Oxygen weighs how much? Oxygen weighs 16. Hydrogen weighs how much? Remember, it's right off the periodic table. It weighs 1, but you have 2 of them. So 1 times 2 is 2. So 2 plus 16 is 18, and that is your molar mass, correct? Okay, so what's your next step? Yep, you're going to divide. Guys, we need to stop interrupting the lesson. 25.3 divided by 64 is how much? Remember, you're going to give me 3 sig figs. Use your calculator. 25.3 divided by 64 is how much? 0.395. Okay, very good. Okay, so now do sulfur. What are you going to do there? 12.9 divided by 32. Very good. What are your 3 significant figures?
0.403.
Yep, very good. 0.403. Okay, now let's do oxygen. What are you going to do there? $25.7 divided by 16. How much?
1.6.
Yep. And because you have 1.606, you can literally round that off to 1.61. Okay? All right, so now water is going to be the 36.1 divided by the 18, because that's your total molar mass. What is your amount there? 2.01, because the 5 rounds off to 0, right? Okay, so what's your next step? Once you have all of these numbers,
Smallest number.
you're going to divide by the smallest number. Very good. So what are we going to divide by?
0.395.
Yep, you're going to divide everything by 0.395. Now, don't forget, you must have all of this work to get credit. And it's always like that in this class. Okay, so how many copper do you have?
1.
Yep. How many sulfur do you have? What about sulfur? 0.403 divided by 0.395 is going to round off to 1. Very good. Okay, now what about oxygen? 1.61 divided by 0.395. It's 4. You can't have 0.5. Remember, once you have a 0.5, you have to multiply it by 2. But do you have a 0.5? You don't have a 0.5. It's just 4. You're going to round off to 4. Okay? And for water, yes, that turns into 5. Okay? All right, so how many coppers do I have? 1. How many sulfurs do I have? 1. How many oxygen do I have? 4. Now this is one compound. Because you have another compound, water, and there's already a compound, Mija, you need to get off the phone. Remember that dot part of the molar mass we did yesterday? Whenever you have a compound like water, whatever number you get for that is going to go in front, just like a coefficient when you do balancing equations. So this is your empirical formula. Okay? How we doing? We all good? Yes? You can do the rest by yourself? We don't have any other questions? No other examples? All right. Go ahead and do it. You must show your work.